Hey, all, and welcome to this week's episode of the Mike Muldoon podcast. Hope you're having a great week. Yep, these holidays, they're coming up on us, and the elf showed up this week. Yeah, the elf has showed up here, and the kids are excited. Though I don't know why, this elf is here to basically to tell Santa everything they're doing wrong, but they obviously don't care. So, been craziness around here. Humanity really showed its true self the other day. I mean that, and how people are genuinely good people. I was out at a fair last week in my town. They had this really huge fair on the high street, beautiful fair, busy, rides, everything. And took the family there and woke up the next morning and I saw myself tagged in a Facebook post here in town. And I was like, why is this random person tagging me in Facebook? And it turns out they'd found my wallet. They were like, if anybody knows Mike Muldoon, please let them know we found this wallet. It was a wallet I didn't even know I was missing. So, which is probably pretty good, because if I would have realized that night I was missing, I probably would have been crazy trying to find it with everything that's in there. And it was cool. I woke up, I was like, oh, these people found my wallet. I didn't even know that was missing. So that's great. I think inherently people at their core are good people. So other than that, let's get started here today. I want to talk about a really interesting topic. Don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's really going to get you thinking. It's really going to get you thinking. And it's called inherited trauma. So have you ever felt weighed down by emotions, maybe fears or patterns that don't really seem to have any clear origin in your life? Or maybe you struggle with anxiety or a sense of unworthiness, or even recurring family issues that feel as though they've been passed down like heirlooms. What if those struggles really aren't entirely yours? I mean, what if they're just echoes of experiences from your ancestors, from stuff that they had endured? Now, listen with me. This is based in science, so just understand here. This is not something we're making up here, okay? This is what is called inherited trauma. And really what it suggests is that the pain of the past might actually linger in the present, not just through stories, but through biology and behaviors and emotional patterns. And today I really want to explore what inherited trauma means, how it manifests, and most importantly, how can we begin to heal it? The concept of inherited trauma, also known as generational or intergenerational trauma, has gained significant attention in recent years. And it really just refers to the idea that trauma experienced by one generation can easily be passed down to subsequent generations, not just through stories, behaviors, but really through biology itself. So if really understanding inherited trauma, it's just not an exploration of the past. It's also a pathway to potential healing for some. See, inherited trauma occurs when the effects of traumatic events experienced by, parents or even grandparents have influenced the mental and emotional and even physical health of their descendants, right? So, for example, descendants of the Holocaust survivors, right, or refugees or victims of systematic oppression often show signs of heightened stress responses and anxiety and depression. And it's interesting because in the research in the field of epigenetics, has revealed that trauma can leave chemical marks on a person's DNA, which then can be passed down to their offspring. Now, the thing about these marks, they don't change the genetic code itself, but it influences how genes are expressed. And this can explain why the pain of an event we never personally experienced can feel so deeply embedded in our own psyche. It's interesting because they did this study on animals as well, where experiments on mice have showed that exposure to certain trauma can alter the gene expression, and these gene changes were actually detectable in their offspring. So what might be some of these signs of inherited trauma, Mike? What should I be looking for? Well, inherited trauma can manifest itself in a variety of ways. Often blending into the, the fabric of one's personality, or even your daily struggles. Some of these signs might include unexplained anxiety or fears, feeling a sense of dread or stress without apparent cause. Where's this coming from? Or repeated patterns in your life, maybe cycles of abuse, poverty, addiction that seems to just sort of persist across generations, right? Now, I know some of this doesn't necessarily have to be inherited trauma. Some of this is just environment, right? But this is one of the things that could be happening, though. Do you have like a disconnection from your identity? Like difficulty connecting to your heritage or maybe even your cultural roots, maybe due to some sort of unresolved historical trauma? Are you overactive to stress response? Hypervigilance or difficulty managing stress even in like non-threatening environments. Recognizing inherited trauma, I mean, it might be the first step towards healing for some people. Like often people are just unaware that their struggles are tied to unresolved wounds of the past. They weren't theirs. And this awareness can really just bring clarity and compassion to your journey, fostering, some of the understanding that some of the challenge they're not, originated solely from your own experience. So if you're somebody who's been dealing with stuff like this, it might be time to really start educating yourself a little bit. Maybe start looking at your history, understanding that your history of your family or even your culture might just shed a little light on how past events may be influencing you today. Maybe somebody went through something really, horrible, and you're kind of feeling the effects of that. It's really interesting. There's a bunch of therapies, that you could go through, that you can look into. If this is really striking a chord with you, there's something called EMDR, right? It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Along with, there's also, somatic experiencing is another one, and family constellation therapy. Like these are all tools that can sort of help you unpack that backpack of pain from previous ancestors. So maybe it just doesn't feel as heavy on you and maybe sort of helps you work through certain things. So to give you an idea, and I'll try to keep this as basic as possible, EMDR is it's like playing a game where you basically follow something with your eyes while thinking about a hard memory. It sort of helps your brain figure out that the bad thing isn't happening anymore, so it feels a little less scary to you. And somatic experience, it's about listening to your body, right? Like pain can hide itself in your body. We've talked about this in other episodes. So it's like if you had a bunch of energy stuck inside from being really upset, this kind of therapy sort of helps your body calm down and kind of release that energy. And then, of course, there's family constellation therapy, which is like drawing a big map of your family to really see if anyone's old problems are causing you troubles today, right? So it really helps you understand those patterns and then kind of feel better about it, because I think a lot of times the struggle comes from, I've talked about in the past, as I grew up, I had panic attacks. And people understand this fear, this overwhelming, where is it coming from? And not knowing is probably the scariest thing a lot of times. Or sometimes we do have a little bit of a trigger somewhere. But I think here, when you realize that, oh, this isn't me. I'm not broken. This is actually something from, I can now trace it back to this. Now I can kind of sort of understand where it's coming. And when we start understanding things, we can really start sort of healing from it. The other thing you can really start doing is, and once you know this stuff, you kind of just start break that cycle, like make intentional choices to disrupt these harmful patterns, whether through, I don't know what it's going to be for you, better communication, embracing healthier coping mechanisms, right? Because maybe now you realize this isn't something that is, oh my God, I don't know where it came from, but now you kind of have an idea where it's come from. You can start working on improving how you deal with it, because I like to say the monster's been unmasked, right? The monster's been unmasked. Now, listen, the thing is, while inherited trauma really, speaks, I guess you could say, to the wounds of the past, it offers you an amazing opportunity, though, for transformation. See, by acknowledging and addressing these inherited patterns, you can actually rewrite the script for your future generations, right? For your kids, for your kids' kids. Because when you heal that inherited trauma, it's just not about repairing what was broken, but it's about creating a new legacy. And it's a new legacy that could be filled with more resilience, better connection, and growth for future generations. So the thing is, each of us do carry the stories of those who came before us, right? Again, we can talk about in genes. But we also hold the power to kind of shape what we pass on, We have a choice to change the narrative in our future's lives. Now, some people just do that by breaking away from, destructive homes, going on and bettering themselves, improving their family situations, their future family situations. But the thing is, by breaking the chains of inherited trauma, we can really just pave the way for a future defined not by pain of the past, but by strength and healing of the present. So I know this is a lot. It's probably going to take some of you to maybe a little bit more, research delving in, because it does seem a little like, what? This? But if you really if you're somebody who really believes that we are sort of all connected, and again, if you look at the fact that like genes and DNA do get passed down, this isn't too far-fetched to believe that this is actually happening and may be happening to you. And again, you'll know the signs. Now, if you're somebody who's in, a really terrible abusive situation, or, everything started from that situation, then there's a pretty good chance that, that's where it started for you. But if you're someone who's like, man, I don't know where this is coming from. Like, I don't know why I have this, or why, some of the things we discussed earlier, you might want to start looking into this, because you might not realize you're just carrying the pains of people from the past. You're just carrying that stuff with you, when realistically it had nothing to do with you. All right. I know this is a tough one today. But again, as always, I'm glad you're with me. I'm glad you're staying with me. I love, just love doing this podcast, and I love being there for you all. And, man, holidays are here, so be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Again, we're coming up on the end of the year, and I know I'm the same right now with everybody. I always talk about, I'm not perfect. We all start looking at what we didn't accomplish, what our goals were, and maybe you're somebody who's like looking at what you did accomplish. Maybe you accomplished more, and that's exciting. But if you didn't, it's okay. It's been tough, man. Things are tough out there. It's a tough world right now. It's a lot of people just struggling, but you're still fighting. And that's what matters. You're still fighting. You're figuring out a way to keep moving forward. And you know what? If you can, just try to accept the holidays for what they are this year, and just try to find whatever it is, whatever your situation is, just try to find some gratitude, be grateful for something. And, as always, I wish you the best this week. Have a great weekend. And as always, I got nothing but love for you.